The sound of shattering glass echoed through the small apartment. Lila flinched, pressing herself against the wall as her boyfriend Kyle hurled a vase across the room. "Is this what you think of me?" he roared, his face red with rage. "You think you can just talk to him like that?" Lila's voice trembled. "Kyle, it was just a coworker. We were talking about the project." "Don't lie to me," he shouted, taking a step closer, his hand raised, and Lila squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the impact. But it never came. Instead, the front door burst open, slamming against the wall. A man stood in the doorway, his frame broad, his jaw tight. His eyes scanned the room, landing first on Lila's trembling form, then on Kyle's raised hand. "Get your hands off her," the man said, his voice low and dangerous. Kyle spun around, surprise turning to fury. "Who the hell are you? This is none of your business." The man stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "I am the guy who is about to make it my business." Lila recognized him now, Jake Carter, the new neighbor who'd moved in last week. She'd seen him once, unloading boxes from a truck, but they'd never spoken. Kyle laughed, a bitter, mocking sound. "You think you can intimidate me? Get out of my house before..." Jake didn't let him finish. In 3 strides, he was in front of Kyle, grabbing his wrist and twisting it behind his back. Kyle yelped, dropping to his knees. "Touch her again, and I'll break every bone in your body," Jake said, his grip tightening. Lila stared, wide-eyed. She'd never seen anyone stand up to Kyle like that. For years, she'd endured his temper, his insults, his threats, too scared to fight back, too isolated to run. Jake released Kyle, shoving him toward the door. "Get out! And don't come back." Kyle scrambled to his feet, shooting daggers at Jake. "This isn't over," he spat, then fled, slamming the door behind him. The room fell silent, save for Lila's ragged breathing. Jake turned to her, his expression softening. "Are you okay?" Lila nodded, then shook her head, tears spilling over. She slid down the wall, wrapping her arms around her knees. Jake knelt beside her, not touching, just waiting. "He is not coming back," he said gently. "I won't let him." Lila looked up, meeting his eyes. They were warm, steady nothing like Kyle's cold, unpredictable gaze. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you help me?" Jake's jaw tightened. "No one deserves to be treated like that. No one." He stood, offering her a hand. "Let me help you clean this up. Then maybe you can tell me what has been going on." Lila hesitated, then took his hand. For the first time in years, she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, things could be different. As she stood, she made a silent promise to herself. She would never let Kyle hurt her again, and with Jake standing beside her, she believed she might actually have the courage to keep it. Jake helped Lila pick up the shards of glass, his movements careful and deliberate. He didn't push her to talk, just worked silently beside her, giving her space to breathe. When the floor was clear, he filled a glass of water and handed it to her. "Drink. You look like you need it." Lila took the glass, her hands still shaking. "Thank you. I don't know what to say." Jake sat down on the edge of the couch, leaving plenty of room between them. "You don't have to say anything, but if you want to talk, I'm listening." Lila took a sip of water, the cool liquid calming her nerves. She stared at her hands, which were still marked with faint bruises from Kyle's earlier grip. "It started small," she said finally, her voice barely audible. "Criticisms about my clothes, my friends, the way I talked. Then he'd apologize, buy me gifts, say he was stressed. I thought he loved me. I thought I could fix him." Jake's jaw tightened. "You can't fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed. And it's not your job to try." Lila nodded, tears stinging her eyes. "I know that now, but back then, I was so lonely. My parents died when I was young, and I never had any siblings. But Kyle was the first person who made me feel like I belonged. He reached over, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. You belong anywhere you choose to be, and you don't need someone like him to prove your worth. Lila looked up, meeting his gaze. There was no pity in his eyes, just understanding. It was a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time. I should have left months ago, she said, her voice breaking. But he'd always find me. He'd threatened to hurt my boss, my few friends. I was trapped. Jake's expression hardened. He won't find you this time. I'll make sure of it. Over the next few days, Jake kept his promise. He checked in on Lila every morning and night, walking her to and from work to ensure she felt safe. Kyle tried to call, text, even showed up at her workplace. But Jake was there to intercept him. Each time, he made it clear that Kyle wasn't welcome anywhere near Lila. One evening, as they walked home from her office, Lila noticed a car parked across the street from her apartment. It was Kyle's car. Her heart raced, and she grabbed Jake's arm. He's here, she whispered. Jake didn't hesitate. He pulled Lila behind him, marching straight toward the car. Kyle rolled down the window, a smirk on his face. Well, looks like you found a new bodyguard, Lila. How cute. Jake leaned down, his voice low and menacing. Last warning, leave her alone. If I see you within a mile of her, I won't be as polite. Kyle's smirk faded. You think you can scare me? I know where she lives, where she works. I also know you've got a record. Jake cut him off. A Dewey from 3 years ago. A restraining order from your ex-girlfriend. Want me to refresh everyone's memory about that? Kyle's face turned red. He stared at Jake for a long moment, then sped off, tires screeching. Lila let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. How did you? I did some research, Jake said, turning to her, just to be prepared. He won't bother you again. Not after that. Lila looked at him, gratitude swelling in her chest. Thank you for everything. Jake smiled. Anytime. Now, let's get you inside. I'll stay until you're settled. As they walked up the stairs, Lila felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in years. For the first time, she believed that Kyle really was gone. And with Jake by her side, she knew she could start to heal. Kyle didn't show up for 3 days. Lila started to relax, even managed to sleep through the night without waking up in a cold sweat. But on the 4th evening, as she and Jake were cooking dinner in her small apartment, her phone rang. The caller ID made her blood run cold. It was Kyle. She froze, phone in hand, unable to move. Jake noticed her hesitation, wiped his hands on a towel, and nodded at the phone. Answer it. I'm here. Lila took a shaky breath and swiped to accept. What do you want, Kyle? His voice was slurred, angry. You think you're better than me now, hanging out with some muscle-bound idiot. I gave you everything, Lila. You owe me. Jake mouthed, put it on speaker. Lila hit the speakerphone button, her hands trembling. I don't owe you anything, she said, her voice stronger than she felt. You hurt me over and over. I'm done. Done? Kyle laughed, a bitter, ugly sound. You can't be done. I know your little secret, remember? The one about your parents' will. If that gets out, you'll lose the apartment, the money, everything. You think your new boyfriend can fix that? Lila went pale. She'd never told anyone about the will, not even her closest friends. How did he know? Jake's hand tightened on the counter. What secret, Kyle? Spit it out. Mind your own business. Tough guy, Kyle shot back. This is between me and Lila. She knows what I'm talking about. Meet me at the old warehouse on 5th Street at midnight. Alone, or everyone finds out what a lying, greedy little... Lila hung up, tears streaming down her face. He can't know. I never told him. Jake pulled her into a hug, his voice calm. He's bluffing. Even if he isn't secrets like that, they're only powerful if you let them be. But what if he's not bluffing? Lila whispered. My parents worked their whole lives to leave me that money. It's all I have to remember them by. Jake pulled back, looking her in the eye. Then we go to 5th Street. But you're not going alone. I'll be right beside you. Lila shook her head. No, Jake. He wants to hurt me. I won't let him hurt you too. I can handle myself, he said firmly. And I'm not letting you walk into a trap. Not when I can stop it. She knew he was right, but fear coiled in her stomach. The warehouse on 5th Street was where Kyle used to take her when he was drunk and angry, a place where no one could hear her scream. Just thinking about it made her nauseous. Jake must have noticed her discomfort. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. We don't have to go. We can call the cops, tell them he's harassing you. But I think he needs to learn he can't control you anymore. Lila closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and opened them again, resolve hardening in her gaze. Let's go. The old warehouse on 5th Street loomed ahead, its rusted metal doors creaking in the wind, like a beast ready to swallow them whole. Jake parked the car a block away, his jaw tight. Stay behind me. If things go south, run. I'll cover you. Lila nodded, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. The last time she was here, Kyle had pinned her against the wall, screaming about how she belonged to him. The scent of motor oil and mildew still clung to her memory, thick and suffocating. They snuck through the broken side entrance, Jake's flashlight cutting through the darkness. The beam landed on Kyle, who was pacing near a stack of crates, a beer bottle in one hand. He turned when he heard them, laughing sharply. Took you long enough. Thought you'd chicken out. Cut the crap, Kyle, Jake said, his voice echoing. What do you want? You've got our attention. Now say it to her face, why you're so obsessed with controlling her. Kyle's eyes flicked to Lila, then narrowed. Obsessed. She's mine. We were supposed to be together, build a life. Then she ran. With you, he spat at Jake. A nobody who doesn't know a thing about us. Lila stepped forward, finally finding her voice. You don't own me, Kyle. Never did. That's why I left. She took another step, her voice steadier. And the will. My parents left me that money to live on, not to be your blackmail tool. You can't hurt me with it. Kyle's face went red. He threw the beer bottle, shattering it against a crate. You think I care about the money? I wanted us to share it. Build something together? He lunged suddenly, but Jake moved faster, tackling him to the ground. The two grappled, grunting as they rolled across the concrete. Lila grabbed a nearby metal pipe, her hands shaking, but her grip firm. Jake, stop. He's not worth it. Kyle managed to break free, scrambling to his feet and pulling a switchblade from his pocket. The blade glinted in the flashlight beam. You want to play hero? Fine. Let's see how tough you are without your little girlfriend to protect. Jake stood, wiping blood from a cut on his cheek, and smiled coldly. Tougher than you, that's for sure. Lila stepped between them, her voice loud and clear. Kyle, put the knife down. This isn't about us anymore. It's about you not being able to accept that people can leave, that I left. She took a deep breath. I'm not scared of you, not anymore. For a long moment, Kyle just stared at her. Then the blade clattered to the ground. He sank to his knees, shoulder slumping. Why couldn't you just stay? He mumbled, more to himself than anyone. Jake put a hand on Lila's shoulder and she knew it was over. The warehouse didn't feel like a prison anymore. It just felt like an empty, rusted shell, like Kyle's hold on her, finally crumbling. The drive back from the warehouse was quiet. The only sound the hum of the engine and the soft rustle of Lila's jacket as she stared out the window. Jake glanced over, his knuckles still white from gripping the steering wheel. You okay? Lila turned, a small, shaky smile tugging at her lips. Yeah, more than okay, actually. It's like a weight's been lifted. She paused, then added, thanks for not letting me go in alone. Jake shrugged, but his ears pinkened slightly. What else was I gonna do? Let you face that lunatic by yourself. He tapped the steering wheel. Though you didn't need me, in the end. That I'm not scared line. Badass. Lila laughed. The sound light and bright, like wind chimes. It felt good. Like she hadn't laughed in years. Guess I finally grew a spine. When they pulled up to her apartment, Jake killed the engine but didn't make a move to get out. Hey, you want to get coffee tomorrow? Not as backup, just because. Lila's heart skipped a beat. She nodded before she could overthink it. Yeah, I'd like that. The next morning, they met at a little cafe downtown. sunlight streaming through the windows. Jake was already there, a mug of black coffee in front of him, scrolling through his phone. He looked up, grinning when he saw her. "You're late." "Fashionably," she shot back, sliding into the booth. "And you're early. Anxious much?" He feigned offense. "Me? Never." But his foot was tapping under the table, a dead giveaway. They talked for hours about their childhoods, about stupid things their friends had done, about dreams they'd tucked away. Lila learned Jake wanted to open a mechanic shop, that he'd been fixing cars since he was 16. Jake learned Lila loved painting but hadn't picked up a brush in months, too busy adulting. "You should paint again," he said, swirling his coffee. "Whatever's been stopping you, screw it. Life's too short to put off the stuff that makes you happy." Lila thought about Kyle, about the way he'd mocked her art, said it was a waste of time. She thought about how small she'd felt, shrinking herself to fit his idea of good enough. "Maybe I will," she said, surprising herself. That night, Lila dug out her old canvases from the closet, dusting off the paint tubes. As she squeezed blue onto her palette, she realized something. She wasn't just picking up a brush. She was choosing herself. A month later, Lila's apartment was covered in paint splatters, and she couldn't have been happier. Jake had kept his word about the coffee. They'd gone almost every morning, then graduated to dinners, to walks in the park, to him sitting on her couch watching her paint while he tinkered with car parts. Today, though, he'd brought something with him. A small, beat-up box. "Found this in my garage," he said, setting it down. "Thought you might want it." Lila opened it, gasping. Inside was a set of watercolor paints, the tubes slightly dried, but still usable. "These are my old ones from high school. How did you?" "Kyle's mom called me," he admitted. "Said he'd left a bunch of your stuff at her place. Didn't want it." She felt bad. "Thought you might." He scratched the back of his neck. Figured it was time they came home. Lila ran her finger over the tubes, tears stinging her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Jake pulled her into a hug, warm and solid, and for a moment, she let herself melt into it. No fear, no hesitation, just safe. Later, as she mixed paint, Jake hovered behind her, his chin resting on her shoulder. "What are you making?" "Something new," she said, smiling. "Something bright. Outside, the sun set, painting the sky in oranges and pinks. Inside, Lila painted and Jake watched, and for the first time in a long while, everything felt exactly as it should be. Thanks for watching. Follow for more romance stories.